and build it. The same Africa, different treatment. Why? A first world passport is more valuable than any PhD in the world. And in much the same way in Africa, it can be more powerful than money too. Fellow Africans, is this right? Can we stop it? Then, how about 10 million signatures today to transform a continent, to leapfrog us to action and endeavor, and send a petition to 50+ governments to look and act? Would that be a good call? Then please rise with me and let's make this pledge together. Humbly I ask that we all rise. Together, let's make this call. The lines that divide us are not our destiny. Our destiny is union. Get ready. Stand up. Speak out. Share the demand. Mobilize your community. Sign the petition. Together, let's make Africa borderless now. Put your hands together. And so I ask that you reach out for your phones and scan the QR code which will be shown and sign this petition, such that together we as a critical mass will make this movement a reality. Please, your phones and the QR code. I thank you all for your cooperation. Please be seated. And such is the boldness and audacity with which we come to Accra, Ghana, at the center of the world and home to the largest continental free trade area in the world and the heartbeat of Pan-Africanism, and to this house, the Accra International Conference Center, which is home to many continental deliberations for the Africa Prosperity Dialogue 2026. Put your hands together for making it thus far. We meet here on this first day, which is the opening ceremony, under a very compelling theme of empowering SMEs, women and youth in Africa's single market through innovation, collaboration and trade. Today's dialogues, ladies and gentlemen, have been put together in a way where we embrace inclusivity in all of its forms, and our theme is certainly a reflection of that. Just gone by, we had breakout sessions or breakfast meetings that spoke to our theme from different angles. And this opening ceremony, ladies and gentlemen, is going to lay the foundation for us to spare on for the next 3 days. While we discuss this important theme of women, ladies and gentlemen, and SMEs, it's important that we receive, to augment our efforts, powerful women of the continent. Chief amongst us today, the Vice President of our Republic. Would you please make welcome warmly Her Excellency Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman. We welcome you warmly. It is particularly appropriate that we receive yet another African stateswoman, the First Lady of the Republic of Angola, Her Excellency Ana Afonso Diaz Lorenzo. We make welcome yet another accomplished Ghanaian and African diplomat, who is the Commissioner for the African Department of Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development at the African Union Commission, Her Excellency Ama Chum Amoa. Representing the Governor of the Bank of Ghana is the Second Deputy Governor, a woman of great accomplishments, Mrs. Matilda Asante Esiedu. Make welcome the CEO of the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council, Samantha Cohen. The Managing Director, CEO, Fidelity Bank PLC Nigeria, Dr. Nneka Onyali Ikpe. Make welcome the Director of Finance and Accounting at the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development, Dr. Sydney van der Poy. We make welcome, ladies and gentlemen, a venerable African statesman and diplomat, the Honorable Hackman Owusu Ajiman. The President of the Osustu Council joins us, Noche Professor Ninote Owu. We also acknowledge with gratitude Royal Highnesses, our chiefs and our queens from various traditional areas, revered religious leaders, excellencies, heads of mission, executives of multilateral agencies and organizations, our business leaders, captains of industry, investors, civil society organizations, distinguished speakers and delegates, members of the press, together with the good and great of our continent, joining us live here at the Accra International Conference Center, on radio, on television, and online. For this opening ceremony, we're pleased to receive a woman of great vision and accomplishment, one whose career embodies the ideals of Africanism and empowerment. In her role as the third chairperson of the African Union Commission and being the first female leader since this organization's founding in 1963, she coined the new or the now iconic phrase, the Africa we want, symbolizing Agenda 2063. This call has become a rallying call for peace, unity and development, progress and shared prosperity on the continent. Her tenure was marked by this defining moment, and we are pleased to have her as the chairperson of the Africa Prosperity Network, the organization behind this great dialogue. Would you please, with warmth in your heart, make welcome Her Excellency Dr. Nkusanza Dlamini Zuma for her remarks. Madam Chair,
thank you very much, Program Director, Your Excellency, J. Nana Opoku Ajiman, the Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, who's always here supporting us. Your Excellency, Ana Alfonso Diaz Lorenzo, the former Minister and now the First Lady of the Republic of Angola. Ministers who are here, distinguished officials who are here from Ghana, from the AU, from the REX, leaders of both the private and the public sector, small and medium business leaders, women, youth, and all the fellow Africans who are here, but special greetings go to our queens and kings who are here. And of course, my fellow advisory council members, the chair of the board of Africa Prosperity Network and all board members. It is a privilege to address you today at the Africa Prosperity Network Dialogue 2026. I'm happy to say that Africa Prosperity Network has continuously emerged as the boardroom of Africa, a place where vision meets execution, where declarations are transformed into action, and where African prosperity and narratives are shaped by Africans themselves. It was a great pleasure to attend some of the breakfast meetings. I learned a lot from young people and from women entrepreneurs. Empowering SMEs, women and youth in Africa will ensure that our single market, our Africa Continental Free Trade, is a success. Without empowering those, Africa will go nowhere. The Africa we want, which is an integrated, prosperous, peaceful Africa, driven by its own citizens, representing a dynamic force in the international arena. This meeting is very much aligned to Aspiration 6 of Agenda 2063, which recognizes that Africa's development must be driven by its people, drawing on the full potential of its women and youth. We gather in Ghana, a nation whose history is inseparable from the Pan-African project. From the vision of late President Kwame Nkrumah to Ghana's contemporary leadership in democratic governance and continental trade facilitation, Ghana symbolizes Africa's enduring commitment to unity, self-reliance, and economic liberation. Hosting the APD 26 in Ghana reinforces the message that Africa's single market is rooted not only in policy, but in history, in struggle, and in collective aspiration. The Africa Prosperity Network was established to bring African leaders, businesses, citizens together to shape our collective future. It has convened heads of states, business leaders, innovators, and has built bridges between policy and enterprise, and advanced campaigns to remove barriers to trade and mobility. These include advocacy for mobile money interoperability, now adopted through the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System. And I'm happy to know that about 17 countries are already utilizing this. And the $1 a Day initiative to mobilize citizens, finance for Africa's infrastructure, which is currently under discussion with Outer NEPAD. Our success as African leaders will not be measured by summits or documents signed. It will be measured by jobs created, businesses scaled, borders opened, and rising prosperity for women, youth, and all citizens. It will be measured by whether Africa builds world-class infrastructure, take away the need for guns, and silence the guns, and ensures that children have access to quality education, health care, and a better quality of life. Our collective success will also be measured by whether we deliver a skills revolution, particularly in the science, technology, engineering, and maths, so that Africans can innovate and drive the continent towards lasting prosperity and peace. It will be measured whether we contribute to AI and not just be the consumers of AI, but we must also contribute to it. Because as they said in the earlier session, AI at the moment uses data that comes from elsewhere, not from the continent. So we must make sure that it also has data from the continent. Women contribute nearly 50% of the GDP, yet face systematic exclusion from finance, from markets, from trade, and from trade networks. So closing the gender gap in trade could increase intra-Africa trade by 15% annually. This is according to the Africa Continental Free Trade Secretariat. Youth make up 60% of Africa's population. We are the youngest continent. This is according to World Bank 2023. Yet unemployment remains structurally high. Empowering young entrepreneurs could create up to 50 million jobs by 2030, according to AFDB. It is therefore important to harness our youthful dividend by investing in quality education skills aligned with future job markets. We must create an enabling environment for entrepreneurship and innovation through supporting policies and access to finance. Also, we need to foster good governance, political stability, and inclusive economic policies to ensure young people meaningfully contribute and benefit from the continent's growth. SMMEs account for 80% of employment and 50% of Africa's GDP, according to Afreximbank 2022. Yet, only one in five participants in cross-border trade due to regulatory, financial, and logistic barriers. So this needs to be addressed. And we require tailored financial products that reflect the realities of entrepreneurs, deliberate integration of women and youth-led enterprises into regional value chains, and sustainable investment in skills development and digital tools. So no one on the continent should not have access to digital technology. Now, to deepen intra-Africa trade, which currently stands at just 15%. I'll compare ourselves to Europe this time. Compared to Europe, which sits at 60 to 70% of intra-regional trade. Africa must therefore open its borders. To make Africa borderless now campaign reflects the urgency that is needed for trade to succeed in Africa. This must be, of course, be done responsibly with due regards to security, regulation, and public safety. Greater mobility strengthens tourism, integration, and mutual understanding amongst Africans. It brings us closer to realizing the vision articulated by the former president of Ghana, who reminded us at that time that divided we are weak. United Africa can become one of the greatest forces for good in the world. That's what he said then. What he said then is still true today. If we just did what he said we must do, unite and have a borderless Africa. There are countries on our continent that have shown that this is possible. Let me just quote 3. There may be more. Botswana, Namibia, Zambia. They are now borderless. And the sky has not fallen. And we have not heard of increased crime rate. But what is going to increase is trade between them. So, as we begin our dialogue 2026, we must commit to inclusive innovation, meaningful collaboration, and expanded trade. Simplified trade regimes must move from pilot projects to continental norms. We can't be piloting forever. Cross-border payments, logistics, and digital trade platforms must be designed for small businesses, not only for large banks and corporates. Integration must reduce costs, not add layers of delay. Governments must decisively remove tariffs and non-tariff barriers. The private sector must procure from SMMEs, women and youth businesses. And financial institutions must be transparent and accountable for how much their capital truly reaches those who drive inclusive growth. Maybe we should have a law in every country that financial institutions must declare how much of their capital goes to youth and women and small and medium enterprises. But building the Africa we want cannot be the responsibility of governments and business alone. It is a shared responsibility. Each and every one of us, whether you are a policymaker, an investor, an entrepreneur, an academic, a worker, or just a citizen like me who doesn't work anymore, we still have the responsibility to build the Africa we want. We have a role in building the Africa we want. But this must begin with us changing our mindset and understanding that we are Africans. The borders that we cherish so much were not drawn by us. And we must remove them. We must remove them. So, but of course, let me just digress and congratulate the young people who participated in the AFCON competition recently in Morocco. We congratulate all of them as they are our young people. And congratulate Senegal for winning. But you only win if they are participants. So we have to congratulate those who participated. And as I conclude, the measure of the success of this dialogue will not be the eloquence of our discussions, but the courage of our implementation as we live here. If we genuinely empower SMEs, women and youth within Africa's single market, if we innovate with purpose and collaboration without borders, we will ignite hope, that is rooted here in the continent will send a clear message to Africa's young people that their future does not lie, their future does not lie in the perilous journeys that they take across the Sahel and across the Mediterranean, but it lies here in the continent. We must build an Africa where young people will aspire to live in Africa, to fix Africa, rather than to escape it. So I wish this dialogue of APD 2026 great success. And I hope all of you here in this hall and outside will sign and be part of the movement for the borderless Africa now. I thank you. Let us.
And for a woman whose words do not fall on rocky ground but on fertile ground, please help me appreciate the chairperson of the APN, former chairperson of the African Union Commission, Her Excellency Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. Thank you for those warm notes of welcome, but particularly your call to us to pursue an Africa where the single market is a priority and must be owned and driven by its people. Today, we celebrate the great work of African women all over the continent, and it would be remiss of me not to acknowledge a woman also in the footsteps of the immediate past, African Union Commission Chair. Make welcome a former AU Deputy Chairperson, Her Excellency Dr. Monique Nsanzambangwa. Please, a round of applause for Her Excellency who joins us. Thank you very much. Your Excellency the Vice President, Your Excellency the First Lady of the Republic of Angola, distinguished ladies and gentlemen, what we've achieved at the APN through these dialogues have been on the back of partnership, but most importantly, leadership. It's my pleasure to celebrate the board, the advisory council, who make this happen together with our chairperson. Joining us as a member of our board, Madame Patricia Poku Diaby from Ghana and La Côte d'Ivoire. Please, a round of applause for her. We make welcome, ladies and gentlemen, even in absentia, Ambassador Dr. Amina Mohammed from the Republic of Kenya. Help me celebrate our council member from the UK, Mr. Joshua Siao. From Ghana, Dr. Eugene Owusu. From the USA, Madame Crystal Jackson. From Equatorial Guinea and Mozambique, Dr. Caesar Mba Abogo. And ladies and gentlemen, through the years, this has been a labor of love for the man we adore and love as our executive chairman, the one, the only, Gabi Asariotredako. But certainly, ladies and gentlemen, the man who is on the ground is our CEO, Mr. Sadiq El Tum. And last but certainly not the least, ladies and gentlemen, the woman who oversees everything as our director, our executive director events, Nana Ajwa Hackman, please. Our chairperson has been able to lay the ground rules for today's engagement through her very detailed speech, but I urge all other contributors who come up to please keep this short. If you see me come this way, please know that your time is due. We shall now appreciate our journey and what has culminated in the APD 2026 theme. Please lend your attention to the screen.
Africa, 1.5 billion people, over 50 countries, one dream. For decades, invisible lines drawn on maps have divided us, limiting our trade, constraining our youth, and blocking the entrepreneurial spirit of our people. But something is changing. The African Continental Free Trade Area promises the world's largest single market. But a promise on paper means nothing without action on the ground. This is the story of those who will make that promise real. The innovators, the collaborators, the traders. This is the story of Africa's border breakers. The African Continental Free Trade Area is ambitious, the largest free trade zone by membership in the world. But But here's the reality. Less than 20% of small and medium enterprises engage in cross-border trade. Women, who run 30% of registered businesses, face walls, blocking access to capital and markets. And our youth, 60% of Africa's population, are innovating in isolation, without the support to scale. Africa trades more with the rest of the world than with itself. SMEs, the backbone of our economy, responsible for over 80% of employment, remain locked out of the continental opportunity. The question isn't whether we can change this. The question is, how fast can we make it happen? Enter the Africa Prosperity Dialogues 2026. Now in its fourth year, the Africa Prosperity Dialogues has evolved from a forum into action, a boardroom for the continent. Under the patronage of Ghana's president, APD 2026 brings together heads of state, business leaders, investors, and the entrepreneurs who will define Africa's future. This isn't about more conversations. This is about concrete solutions. Executive roundtables where ministers make binding commitments. Deal rooms where entrepreneurs meet the investors who will fund their expansion. Masterclasses where SMEs learn to navigate AfCFTA rules, access the Pan-African payment system, and build businesses that cross borders. The marketplace of success, where women-led enterprises from Kigali display alongside youth innovators from Accra, where products cross imaginary borders on exhibition floors before they cross real ones in commerce. Success made visible, success made replicable. And in 2026, something historic happens. The launch of the Make Africa Borderless Now campaign, a people-powered movement demanding what should already be ours. Visa-free Africa to make us move, connect, trade, and build a truly continental commercial unit and workforce. Open Africa's skies to liberate African aviation and reduce flight costs, boost tourism, and connect African cities. One African biometric passport and digital ID, a security-conscious system that enables free movement for all Africans. Implementation of the AfCFTA protocol on digital trade to harmonize e-commerce rules, digital signatures, trust services, and online business frameworks. Seamless cross-border mobile money interoperability and the Pan-African payment and settlement system. PAPS to make digital payments work everywhere in Africa using your local currency. Recognize African skills across Africa where your qualifications can unlock labor mobility, innovation, and knowledge transfer across the continent. One standard, one test, one market to harmonize product standards and certifications so goods approved in one country can be sold anywhere in Africa. One African customs union to remove non-tariff barriers, digitize customs systems, and create a unified continental trade regime. Build the Africa we want through continental infrastructure corridors where all neighboring countries collaborate to invest in integrated roads, rail, ports, energy systems, digital networks, and logistics corridors that connect the entire continent through mechanisms like the $1 a day initiative. Operationalize the African Court of Justice to issue binding decisions that enforce compliance to effect the single market and protect businesses, investors, and citizens. Empower women and youth in trade by fully implementing the AU Protocol on Women and Youth in Trade. One African voice in global trade negotiations for collective bargaining power that will secure better terms, fair markets, and a stronger continental position globally. 10 million signatures, one petition to African leaders, one demand: implement the protocols that make Africa borderless, not tomorrow, now. When SMEs thrive, jobs are created. When women access markets, communities prosper. When youth innovate without borders, Africa competes with the world. This is not charity. This is not aid. This is Africa building the infrastructure, physical, financial, and regulatory, to trade with itself. Collaborate, innovate, trade. 3 words. One formula for success. The Africa Prosperity Dialogues 2026 is where that formula becomes a reality. Africa's prosperity won't be granted by others. It will be built by us. One border broken, one business scaled, one partnership forged at a time. The question is not whether Africa will rise. The question is, will you be part of making it happen? Africa Prosperity Dialogues 2026, where Africa's future is not debated, it is built.
And that's why we gather here to build Africa's future as one great collective right here at the Accra International Conference Center, and to the millions joining us on radio, television, and online. We welcome you to the Africa Prosperity Dialogues 2026 under a very compelling theme: empowering SMEs, women, and youth in Africa's single market. Innovate, collaborate, and trade. This afternoon, we're joined by our great partners. Allow me to make welcome first to address us, the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development. Make welcome the Director of Finance and Accounting, Dr. Sydney van der Boy.
Thank you, Jerry. Your Excellencies, honorable members of government, heads of institutions, captains of industry, innovators, distinguished ladies and gentlemen. It's a privilege to join you at the Africa Prosperity Dialogues 2026 under the auspices of the Africa Prosperity Network. Please allow me, on behalf of the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development, to convey the warm greetings of our President and Chairman of the Board, Dr. George Ejekum Donko, and to express our deep appreciation to the Africa Prosperity Network, the government and good people of the Republic of Ghana, and the AFCFTA Secretariat for convening this strategic platform dedicated to advancing Africa's economic integration and shared prosperity. This gathering has in a few years become a premier space where ideas, policy, and capital intersect in service of the Africa we want under the Agenda 2063. The chosen theme, I quote, empowering SMEs, women, and youth in Africa's single market, innovate, collaborate, and trade, unquote, could not be more relevant to the realities we confront daily in development finance. And as Director of Finance of EBIT, I see in very concrete terms both the immense entrepreneurial energy of our SMEs and the constraints that hold them back. Foremost among this is access to appropriate, affordable, and patient capital. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, bridging this finance gap is not a peripheral issue anymore. It is central to Africa's growth story, to job creation for our young people, and to social stability across our sub-regions. And every CD and dollar we mobilize and deploy intelligently into women-led businesses, youth-led startups, and productive SMEs multiplies into incomes, innovations, and cross-border trades that bring the AFCFTA's promise to life. At EBIT, we see these dialogues not merely as another conference, but as a working space to align policy, capital, and capability around bankable solutions. Interestingly, the bank's new strategic plan spanning 2026 to 2030 is sustainability focused. It addresses the S in the ESG framework by tackling socioeconomic biases that affect predominantly women and youth. Over the next 5 years, the bank will commit a minimum of 25% of its resources to social sector interventions, with women and youth as the ultimate beneficiaries. The plan also seeks to enhance our support for SMEs, with at least 22% of our new commitments dedicated to the sector. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, an all-in approach to empowering SMEs, women and youth cannot be handled by a single institution or government. We come here ready to listen, to learn, and to partner, so that together with governments, fellow DFIs, commercial banks, and private investors, we can design instruments that truly de-risk SME lending, expand credit guarantees, and crowd in large finance at scale. And over the next days, we look forward to the rich exchanges that will shape practical outcomes for SMEs, women and young people who are building Africa's single market from the ground up. EBIT stands committed to working with Africa Prosperity Network and all stakeholders present to move from aspirations to implementation, from vision statements to transaction pipelines that transform lives and economies around our sub-region and the continent. We wish all of us a fruitful deliberations, and I thank you for your kind attention.
Dr. Sidney van der Poel is the Director of Finance and Accounting at the ECOWAS Bank for Investment and Development. Please appreciate him for his warm remarks of partnership and assurance. We're joined by the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council. Please make welcome the CEO, Samantha Cohen, for her remarks.
And distinguished speakers, Dr. Sidney van der Poel, Dr. Neka Anyeli Ikpe, and Dr. Johnson Pandit Asiyama. Thank you very much for inviting me to speak to you here today, addressing you on my very first visit to Ghana. I would especially like to thank Gabi Asare Chocho Dako, who has long been a supporter of my organization, graciously serving as the chair of the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council for Ghana, and who founded the Africa Prosperity Network to bring people together around Africa's economic integration and development. I represent an organization called the Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council, or CEWIC as we call it. It is the accredited business arm of the Commonwealth. Our role is to promote trade and investment across the 56 Commonwealth nations, working with governments, investors, and crucially, businesses. The Commonwealth really is an extraordinary institution, bound together not by formal trading arrangements, but by common history, shared values, and trusted relationships. It is a family of like-minded nations led by His Majesty King Charles III. And I was very fortunate to work alongside the late Queen Elizabeth II for many years, who, under her reign, grew the Commonwealth from 7 nations in 1953 to 54 nations at the time of her death. And we are also very honoured that the current Secretary-General of the Commonwealth, the Honourable Shirley Botchway, is Ghanaian, former Finance Minister of Ghana. The Commonwealth is home to 2.7 billion people, with 60% of those under the age of 30. It includes over 1 billion middle-class consumers and represents both some of the largest economies in the world, such as India, and some of the smallest, for example, Tuvalu in the Pacific, each with equal voice. The cumulative GDP of Commonwealth nations stood at US $14.2 trillion in 2022, projected to rise to 20 trillion by 2029. The Commonwealth accounts for 40% of the global workforce and hosts half of the world's top 20 emerging cities. But these are only headline figures and only matter if they translate into opportunity on the ground for small businesses, for young entrepreneurs, and most importantly, women-led enterprises. Across the Commonwealth and Africa alike, SMEs account for around 90% of all businesses and more than half of all employment. Women-owned businesses already contribute an estimated 250 billion to Africa's GDP, yet continue to face disproportionate barriers to finance, markets, and network. Youth-led enterprises are growing rapidly, but too many struggle to scale beyond the informal or early stage phase. That is why institutions and platforms such as this that support early stage, seed and pre-seed entrepreneurs matters so deeply. They are not peripheral to growth, they are the pipeline of future national champions. The Commonwealth's voice can be very powerful. We have members on the UN Security Council, 2 members of the G7, 5 members of the G20, and representation in every major regional economic grouping in the world. That influence must increasingly be used to unlock opportunities for SMEs, and especially for women and young founders. This alignment is particularly strong within the African Continental Free Trade Area, where 19 members are also Commonwealth countries. The Commonwealth and AFCTA are natural partners in promoting open, rules-based and inclusive trade. At a time when parts of the world are moving towards protectionism, AFCFTA member states are demonstrating that openness, integration and cooperation remain the most effective path to prosperity. But this integration must work for businesses of all sizes, not only large firms. Commonwealth trade and investment is not reliant on formal trade deals alone, and this flexibility can be a real advantage for SMEs, particularly women and youth-led businesses seeking to enter new markets with fewer barriers. It relies on relationships and it relies on trust. We stand here today in Ghana, home of the AFCFTA Secretariat, at the heart of Africa's integration agenda. I encourage businesses here to look to the Commonwealth partners, not only within Africa but globally, as Africa continues its mission to eliminate borders and unlock scale. For CWEIC, our commitment is clear. Whenever we convene Commonwealth businesses, the ask is always for freer movement of goods, capital and ideas, not less. Over the coming months, we will bring Commonwealth businesses together in London, in Lagos, and later this year at the Commonwealth Heads of Government meeting in Antigua and Barbuda, and we hope to see you there. The voices of business, particularly SMEs, women entrepreneurs and young founders, must be heard by presidents and prime ministers as they shape the future of trade and investment. As the global trading environment becomes even more uncertain, the Commonwealth's role as a trusted, connected and values-based network has never been clearer. And with so many Commonwealth countries represented within the AFCFTA, we have a unique opportunity to ensure that SMEs, women and youth are not left behind, but placed at the centre of Africa's prosperity. Thank you.
We thank you, Commonwealth Enterprise and Investment Council, particularly to you, the CEO, Madam Samantha Cohen. We say many thanks. Please, another round of applause. We make welcome from the Federal Republic, of Nigeria, the Fidelity Bank PLC. Make welcome the Managing Director, CEO, Dr. Nneka Onyeali-Ikpe, for her remarks. Everybody is speaking from there. Please, don't interrupt my flow. Madam, please. Madam, please.
Good afternoon, Your Excellency, the First Lady of Angola, Ms. Nko, please permit my language, Nko Sosana, the Lami Zuma. Also, the First Lady, Her Excellency, Dr. Monique, and distinguished ladies and gentlemen, please permit me to stand on existing protocols. I am honored to join you today at this event, the Africa Prosperity Dialogue for 2026, a platform that has grown into one of the continent's most influential spaces for advancing trade, investment, and inclusive growth. I would like to acknowledge the leadership of His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, the President of the Federal Republic of Ghana, the Partnership of African Continental Trade Free Zone Secretariat, and all the partners making this event possible. Today's top theme, empowering SMEs, women and youth in Africa's single market, innovate, collaborate and trade, resonates with the realities we see on ground and the opportunities ahead. And is a topic and a theme that is very dear to me and my institution, Fidelity Bank Nigeria and Fidbank London in UK. Incidentally, Fidelity Bank is the 6th largest bank in Nigeria and is a leading bank in SMEs in Nigeria, SME support in Nigeria. We have won several awards on this background, so I think we earned the right to be here today because SMEs are very close to our hearts. So, so despite the fact that less than 20% of all of this, less than 20% of African SMEs have access to formal finance, leaving a staggering $331 billion financing gap, according to the IFC's MSME Finance Gap Report of 2025. Africa also has the highest rate of female enterprises globally, of which about 26% are women, and engage in starting and running businesses that are women-owned. And meanwhile, these enterprises are facing severe financing and trade barriers. Again, as an operator, we're quite surprised at this because data shows that out of 10 companies that have bad debts, only one is female-led. So that's why it's quite surprising that we keep talking about this and this alignment. So I imagine that today and think that programs like this will solve and try to take action on this, not just rhetorics. From my position as an operator, as a banker, I think 3 things need to be done. 3 action points would help to solve this problem. First of all, we must unlock women-led trade. UN research shows that women reinvest up to 90% of their incomes, like the speakers earlier on said, into the families and communities, amplifying the economic impact. Similarly, the AFTA identifies over $15 billion in untapped trade potential from women-led enterprises. These real constraints are limited access to finance, complex trade procedures, and informal market entry procedures also frustrate this effort. Trade finance should be tailored to women-led SMEs and also offer simpler border processes that may move businesses from informal to scalable entities. We should also convert Africa's youth potential into enterprise. By 2035, Africa will add more young people to the workforce each year than the rest of the world put together. In fact, over 400 million young Africans are projected to reach working age by that year. A scale of new labor supply that demands urgent focus on job creation, skills, and cross-border trade opportunities. Youth-led businesses need skills, aligning with tradable sectors and digital access to regional markets. Therefore, we need to encourage digital trade platforms that lower entry costs and allow young entrepreneurs to scale faster with less capital. We also need to make SMEs trade ready, because what we have seen is that the African supply chain and trade finance volumes are well over 50 billion euros compared to the estimated need of 240 billion euros. Therefore, we need to expand the supply chain finance and harmonize trade documentation with reduced costs and improve SME bankability significantly. So by our judgment, this is how SMEs will become credible partners to African single trade market. So, like I said, let me expand on what Fidelity Bank is doing to help with all of this. We have 3 priorities. One is empowering trade and finance through our Feedbank UK subsidiary, who are present, they have a booth outside. With a fully fledged subsidiary in the United Kingdom, Feedbank UK, we are able to support cross-global trade and empower trade and finance between the United Kingdom and West Africa. Feedbank UK provides a comprehensive range of banking services, including trade finance, personal banking, business banking, treasury services, commercial lending, mortgages, and several others in the United Kingdom, as well as private banking. Secondly, we need to expand market access to Nigerian SMEs through Fidelity Nigeria International Trade and Creative Connect. To strengthen the capacity of SMEs and improve their access to global supply chains via partnerships and foreign collaborations. Fidelity Bank established the Fidelity Nigeria International Trade and Creative Connect in 2022. We have had three of the programs, one in the United Kingdom, 2 in the United States. Through this program, participating SMEs have successfully entered markets in the United Kingdom and the United States, namely Atlanta and Houston were the 2 venues. And they gained visibility, expanded trading channels, and deepened their participation in global value chains. I'm happy to announce that through this effort, we have several of our SMEs that now have their products on the big shops in the United States and the United Kingdom. So we encourage that other SMEs reach out to us to include them in this program. It's very effective. We are also of the opinion that we need to advance women-led enterprises through Her Fidelity. In recognition of the critical role women play in economic development, Fidelity Bank launched Her Fidelity, a comprehensive value proposition tailored to support women at every stage of their entrepreneurial and personal journeys. Anchored on 4 significant pillars: financial support, entrepreneurship development, health and wellness, and business education, Her Fidelity delivers holistic empowerment for women. As part of this offering, the bank introduced Fund Her, a bespoke lending solution designed to provide women-owned businesses with access to finance at highly discounted interest rates. This initiative ensures that women entrepreneurs can grow sustainably, scale their ventures, and participate more competitively in the regional and global space. We also support SMEs via what we put together, our SME Hub. The Fidelity SME Hub operates as a one-stop platform and has helped over 50,000 SME transition from survival to scale through advisory support, capacity building, and access to tailored funds. By linking finance with capability and ecosystem partnerships, the SME Hub strengthens SMEs' participation in regional value chains and aligns directly with AFTA's objective of enabling SME-led across-border trade. I want to end these remarks with what success from APD of 2026 should look like. Clear trade simplification and SME-focused policy recommendations aligning with AFTA's protocols. Scaling proven trade finance instruments such as supply chain finance, guarantees, and blended structures where SMEs are already trading. Public-private partnerships built around real trade corridors. Pipeline of projects that banks, DFIs, and investors should finance with confidence. APD 2026 matters because Africa's single market will not build itself. It will be built through deliberate policies, targeted capital, and accountable collaboration. Empowering SMEs, women, and youth speak to sound economic strategy, and for this we look forward to translating these discussions into bankable outcomes for Africa's economy. So I want to thank you for giving me the opportunity to present this to you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, help me say a big thank you to Fidelity Bank PLC Nigeria and the CEO Managing Director, Dr. Neka Onyali-Ikpe. Thank you for those warm words as you seek to create a world of limitless opportunities for all, especially women, SMEs, and the youth. We're particularly delighted to round up on behalf of, or wrap up, I beg your pardon, on behalf of all our partners, a former senior manager for private and women banking, a former group head retail banking, who now, by the grace of God, is the second deputy governor of the Bank of Ghana. Would you please make welcome yours and mine, Mrs. Matilda Asante Esiedu.
Excellency, Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Professor Jane Nana Opoku-Agyeman, Your Excellency, First Lady of Angola, Excellencies, distinguished guests, investors, innovators, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. I bring you warm greetings from the Bank of Ghana, and on behalf of the Governor, Dr. Pandit Esiama, who regrettably is unable to be here today, but he's asked me to represent him. And so let me start by commending Mr. Gabi Asaro Tredako and the team at the Africa Prosperity Network for sustaining this important convening platform, but also for the theme for today, which is empowering SMEs, women, and youth in Africa's single market. Innovate, collaborate, and trade. Now, this theme reminds us that Africa's integration is not an abstract policy. It is about people. It's about whether a young innovator in Accra, or a woman trader in Kisangani, or a small enterprise in Lusaka can access markets across borders with confidence and efficiency. At the center of this transformation lies one critical enabler: efficient cross-border payments and digital financial systems. Ladies and gentlemen, as we advance implementation of the Africa Continental Free Trade Area, one truth has become increasingly clear, and that is trade agreements alone do not create trade. Payments make trade possible. Without secure, affordable, and reliable means of transferring value, the promise of a truly integrated African market cannot be achieved. Payment systems are strategic trade infrastructure, essentially for monetary stability, financial integration, and long-term economic transformation across our dear continent. Now, despite Africa's enormous economic potential, cross-border payments remain expensive, slow, and fragmented. Transaction costs intra-Africa payments exceed between 7 to 10%. Now that compares to about 3% on average around the world. And so settlement times also take long. Sometimes it can go from days to weeks. Yet amidst these tremendous challenges lie great opportunities. AfCFTA brings together a market over 1.5 billion people, a combined GDP of approximately $2.8 trillion. If fully and truly implemented, intra-Africa trade could double in the medium term. But this growth would only materialize if our payment systems match Africa's trade ambitions. Thankfully, Africa has already demonstrated global leadership in digital finance and innovation. With more than half of the world's mobile wallets being on the continent, We've shown that with technology we can expand financial inclusion, transform livelihoods, and Ghana stands as a notable example. But for digital finance to be fully empowered and for Africa's single market to explode, inclusion must not just be within borders, it must extend beyond individual country borders. For instance, here in Ghana, we have deliberately built a modern, interoperable, and resilient payment ecosystem. Investments in digital public infrastructure have enabled interoperability amongst banks, fintechs, mobile money operators, supporting real payments across our economy. These domestic successes provide for us a strong platform for regional integration. Ghana is an active member of the Pan-African Payment Systems and Settlements PAPS, which enables cross-border payments in local African currencies. It shortens the long value chain and lowers the cost of trade across the continent. So our vision is very clear. Africa must increasingly be settled in African currencies, all the transactions done in Africa, through African infrastructure and supported by African institutions. And we believe that central banks play a very critical role in fostering this innovation while safeguarding stability and public confidence. Now, at the Bank of Ghana, we are advancing key initiatives. First is our FinTech Passport, which is a transactional collaboration between the Bank of Ghana and the Bank of Rwanda to enable cross-border licensing and regulatory trust. We believe that this solution could be scalable across Africa to facilitate trade. Our next generation digital public infrastructure initiative is testing multilateral interoperability frameworks, settlement modules, and future cross-border currency arrangements. And our most recently passed Virtual Asset Service Providers Act is designed to support emerging digital channel payments while ensuring strong consumer protection and risk oversight. These initiatives recognize that payment systems constitute critical national and continental infrastructure requiring robust cybersecurity, regulatory coordination, and trusted governance frameworks. So the agenda is fundamentally about inclusive growth. SMEs, which we're focusing on today, account for over 90% of Africa's businesses. Women dominate in these informal sector trades. Young Africans are leading the continent's digital revolution. Yet, high transaction costs and payments inefficiencies disproportionately affect these groups. Therefore, we believe that removing these barriers will unlock scale and strengthen competitiveness, as well as expand opportunities across Africa. So as we look ahead, our collective priorities, we believe, must be to harmonize regulatory standards across borders, advance licensing passports across African countries, strengthen digital public infrastructure, expand cross-border mobile money and instant payment pilots, and as the chairperson said, move from pilots to full-scale execution, and then broaden digital onboarding and payments acceptance infrastructure for the SME sector. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, as I conclude, I want to say that Africa's single market will not be achieved by mere aspiration. It will be realized when value moves seamlessly, as the ideas we're discussing here today. When entrepreneurs transact across borders without friction, and when innovation is supported by trust and strong institutions. Now, if we collaborate with conviction and build systems that serve trade, cross-border payments, I believe, will move from being constraints to powerful catalysts for Africa's shared prosperity. We at the Bank of Ghana stand ready to collaborate, to move from discussions to action. I thank you for your attention.
To actions, ladies and gentlemen, Mrs. Matilda Santiesiedu, Second Deputy Governor of the Bank of Ghana. Please appreciate her one more time, and the Bank of Ghana. This year's theme has been deliberately chosen, one which speaks to greater inclusivity, empowering SMEs, women and youth in Africa's single market, innovate, collaborate and trade. Here to lay the foundation, ladies and gentlemen, by way of a keynote address, is a very distinguished African diplomat right here from Ghana. Today she's the Commissioner for the Africa Department of Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development at the AUC. I give to you Her Excellency Ama Chum Amoa.
Your Excellency Professor Jenana Ajiman, Upuku Ajiman, Vice President of the Republic of Ghana, Your Excellency Ana Alfonso Diaz Lorenzo, First Lady of the Republic of Angola, Your Excellency Dr. Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma, Chairperson of the Africa Prosperity Network Advisory Council and former chairperson of the African Union, my dear sister Dr. Monique, former deputy chairperson of the African Union, excellencies, ambassadors, high commissioners, and members of the diplomatic corps, distinguished heads of institutions, captains of industry, development partners, private sector leaders, leaders of small and medium-scale enterprises, women and youth entrepreneurs, our dear friends from the media, ladies and gentlemen, a warm good afternoon to you all. Good afternoon. Thank you. It is a profound honor to join you this afternoon at the 4th edition of the Africa Prosperity Dialogue, a platform that has rapidly become one of Africa's most consequential space for shaping our economic future through bold thinking, practical solutions, and collective resolve. I highly commend Mr. Gabi Asario-Chidako and the whole Africa Prosperity Network team for the visionary leadership in bringing together governments, the private sector, innovators, and development partners around a single purpose: to accelerate Africa's integration and unlock its prosperity. On behalf of the chairperson of the African Union, I extend sincere appreciation to the government and people of Ghana for hosting the Secretariat of the African Continental Free Trade Area, one of our union's flagship institutions. It is indeed fitting that this historic project is anchored in the homeland of Osajefo Dr. Kwame Nkrumah, whose vision reminds us that Africa's destiny will be shaped not by the borders that divide us, but rather by the unity that binds us. Today, that vision is no longer rhetorical. It is operational, it is institutional, and it is irreversible. This year's theme speaks directly to the African Union's vision of a borderless, opportunity-driven continent. However, free trade in the absence of free movement is an aspiration without substance. Goods cannot move if people cannot move. Opportunity cannot expand if entrepreneurs cannot cross borders. Integration cannot deepen if Africans remain strangers to one another. If we are serious about prosperity, then we must be equally serious about implementing the protocol on the free movement of persons. And I would like to thank Jerry for the call to action. We need all 55 African member states to come on board. As it stands now, only 4 member states have ratified. 32 have signed. And for the protocol to come into force, we need a minimum of 15 member states to ratify. So, let all of us leave this dialogue not merely as participants, but as the ambassadors for free movement. Because when Africans move, Africa moves forward. And without borderless Africa, our development and our prosperity will be stunted. Excellencies and distinguished guests, Africa stands at a defining moment in its economic history. Through the AFCFTA, we have created the largest single market in the world by number of countries, with over 1.4 billion people and a combined GDP exceeding $3 trillion. But let us remember a simple truth. Markets do not trade, people do. And economies do not grow from policy frameworks alone. They grow from enterprises. If the AFTA engine is the transformation for Africa, then SMEs, women and youth are its power source. Without them, the engine cannot run. Without them, integration cannot deliver prosperity. Across Africa, SMEs represent over 90% of businesses, as we already heard, and more than 80% of employment. Yet, too many remain local by necessity rather than continental by design. You will all agree with me that an integrated market that excludes SMEs is not integration. It is exclusion. We must move African enterprises from survival to scale, from informality to competitiveness, and from domestic reach to continental impact. Africa is the youngest continent on earth, and African women are among the most entrepreneurial globally. This is not merely a demographic reality. It is Africa's greatest economic advantage. Yet, financing gaps persist. Market access remains uneven. Informality continues to suppress growth. Excellencies, empowering women and youth is not a social gesture. It is an economic strategy for our continent. When women thrive, economies expand. When youth innovate, productivity rises. When opportunity is shared, stability follows. And we need that in Africa. Africa, therefore, cannot achieve prosperity while half of its potential is underfinanced and its majority underutilized. The African Union, working with partners such as the African Development Bank, Afrexim Bank, and the Africa Guarantee Fund, is expanding access to finance and strengthening enterprise ecosystems. But finance alone is not enough. Prosperity requires policy coherence. It requires infrastructure. It requires skills. And it requires mobility. And above all, it requires political will. Africa's integration will not be defeated by a lack of ideas. Indeed, we have lots of ideas, but by a lack of courage to implement them. Critical AU instruments, including the Free Movement Protocol, the Single African Air Transport Market, the Pan-African Payment and Settlement System, and the Protocol on Women and Youth in Trade must now move decisively from agreement to action. I believe that the era of signing must now give way to the era of delivery. Distinguished guests, Africa's prosperity will not be imported, but built by Africans, built by our entrepreneurs, powered by our own innovation, and sustained through collaboration. History will remember our generation, not for the agreements we signed, but for the opportunities we unlocked for Africa's women, youth, and entrepreneurs. If we get this right, Africa will not merely participate in global trade. Africa will help shape it. Excellencies, distinguished guests, ladies and gentlemen, the future of this great continent of ours will not be written solely in presidential palaces or corporate boardrooms. It will be written by the small business with a big idea, the young innovator bold enough to disrupt the status quo, and the woman entrepreneur transforming her community. Let this be the generation that moved Africa from fragmentation to unity, from potential to productivity, and from promise to prosperity. And let history record this final truth. When Africa stood at the crossroads of integration, we did not hesitate. We chose courage, we chose unity, and we chose action. I wish all of us fruitful deliberations and look forward to the commitments that will advance our shared vision of a prosperous, integrated, and unstoppable Africa. May God bless us all, and may He continue to bless our great continent. Thank you. Madam Wasi.
And in doing so, may He bless you, Commissioner for African Department of Health, Humanitarian Affairs and Social Development at the African Union Commission, Your Excellency Ama Chum Amwa. Please help me appreciate her once more for that very enlightening keynote. Well, we've been sitting for quite a while on a very refreshing note. Last year, the world elected a new pope. On the sidelines of that election that was happening, 4 men gathered outside St. Peter's Square. They were drinking and talking, and one of them started boasting. He says, "My son is a Catholic priest. When he enters a place, they call him Father." The second one says, "Well, my son is a bishop. When he enters a place, they say, Your Grace." The third one says, "My son is a cardinal. When he goes to a place, they call him Your Eminence." And the fourth one says, "You have all a bunch of jokers. My son is the incoming pope. They will call him what? Your Holiness." Then they turn to a woman who was just there minding her own business. They say, "And you too?" Says, "Well, I don't have a son, but I have a daughter. She is pretty. She has brains. She has skills. And when she opens her mouth at any place, people say, oh my God." Ladies and gentlemen, the next woman you're going to see is going to blow your mind. I ask that you receive with warmth and delight from Ghana to the whole world, poet Nakayet. And together we say,
Mother of nations, daughter of a continent that refuses to kneel, we rise and we salute you. Ana Afonso Dia Lorenzo, woman of thought, woman of action, and indeed a woman of Africa. Since September 2017, when Angola entrusted its destiny into your household, You have stood not behind history, but within it, with purpose, with intellect, and indeed with compassion. An economist by training, a planner by instinct, and indeed a public servant by conviction. From shaping Angola's future as Minister of Planning to representing Africa at the global table at the World Bank, carrying the voices of Angola, Nigeria, and South Africa, you learned what many forget: that development is not spreadsheets alone. It's women with opportunity, girls with education, families with dignity, communities with hope. And so today, as First Lady, your vision and your focus is clear: women's empowerment, education for girls, health, social development. Through OFLAD, my lady, you always remind Africa that when women lead together, nations rise together. Today we gather here not as fragments, not as borders made by borrowed pens. We gather here as one people, one nation, one market, one destiny, one Africa. They say Africa is many, but we say Africa is one. Whether you speak Twi or Hausa, Swahili or Yoruba, English. When they chase us out of America and Europe, they do not ask if you are Zulu or Hutu, Nigerian or Kenyan, Angolan or Ghanaian. They only say African. Why then should we divide ourselves when the world already counts us as one? We are 1.5 billion strong, a slight majority of women, a continent of youth. Let Africa hear this truth. Without women, the single market won't work. And without youth, it will certainly not move. They will not merely participate. They must own it, and they must drive it. Because SMEs are our heartbeat. Women are our backbone. Youth are our engine. Yes, innovation lives in our streets, and collaboration flows in our blood. Trade is actually written in our history. From Timbuktu to Mombasa, from Accra to Luanda, from Cairo to Cape Town. Africa is not poor in ideas. Africa is rich in culture, rich in raw materials, rich in young people, beaming with ideas and entrepreneurial verve. Together and united, we are not a footnote. We are not a charity case. We are a power, a future brighter than America, a market greater than Europe, a force that can stand shoulder to shoulder with India and China. For today, we are not Angola. Angola, 50 years of independence, 50 years of resilience, 50 50 years of dignity. Angola that welcomed the world. Angola that even saw Messi dribble past her sons, yet never lost her pride. We salute the leadership of this great nation. The chairperson of the African Union, your husband bearing the weight of Africa's unity. Today, we celebrate you. Ana Afosu Dias Lorenzo, woman of power, champion of women, voice for the girls yet unborn, advocate of inclusion, planner of possibilities. You empower and embody the Africa we seek. Confident, competent, compassionate, and unapologetically united. You are indeed a woman of valor. And as you step forward to speak, may your words ignite women, mobilize youth, and encourage Africa, strengthen and empower our resolve to collaborate, to innovate, and to trade together. First Lady of Angola, Ana Afoso Dias Lorenzo. Woman of Africa, Mother of Nations, the floor is yours. Good, glorious afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you.
And for Nakayat the poet, we say, oh my God. Put your hands together. And now the good of Africa, the good and great of Africa, please rise and celebrate a distinguished African stateswoman, the First Lady of the Republic of Angola, as she delivers her address, Her Excellency Ana Alfonso Dias Lorenzo. Please be seated.
Excelência, Senhora Vice-Presidente da República do Ghana, Professora Jane Nahana, Excelência Senhora Dlamini Zuma, antiga Presidente da Comissão da União Africana, ilustres convidados, membros representativos da APD, minhas senhoras e meus senhores. É com profunda boa tarde a todos. Good afternoon for all. Bonsoir, messieurs, dames. É com profunda honra e um elevado sentido de responsabilidade que me dirijo a este distinto auditório para refletirmos em conjunto sobre um tema que considero não apenas central e urgente, poderão levar muito além da tradicional retórica da integração diplomática. Contudo, devemos ser realistas. O seu verdadeiro sucesso e a sua longevidade dependerão invariavelmente da forma como garantimos que esta integração seja inclusiva, justa e amplamente participativa. No entanto, para o cumprimento do seu propósito, devemos tratar com especial atenção o vasto setor informal que, embora muitas vezes invisível nas nossas estatísticas oficiais, sustenta milhões de famílias africanas dependentes de mulheres. No quadro da Zona de Comércio Livre Continental, o protocolo sobre mulheres e jovens no comércio assume um papel central e inalienável. Este protocolo reconhece uma realidade que não podemos, em circunstância alguma, ignorar. A inclusão econômica não acontece de forma automática ou por mero decreto. Ela exige a implementação de políticas ativas, a adoção de medidas corretivas e uma abordagem consciente e persistente para se ultrapassar as desigualdades históricas e estruturais que continuam, infelizmente, a limitar a participação plena de mulheres e jovens na economia formal e no comércio intra-africano. Para tomar esta visão uma realidade concreta, é essencial investir de forma consistente e estratégica em infraestruturas físicas e digitais de última geração. Devemos facilitar de forma desburocratizada o acesso ao financiamento dos serviços financeiros, fortalecendo assim as capacidades produtivas em todo o continente. A inclusão digital, a literacia tecnológica e o acesso facilitado a plataformas de comércio eletrónico devem ser encarados como pilares estruturais da inclusão econômica moderna. Estimados participantes, minhas senhoras e meus senhores, neste esforço de consolidação do comércio livre africano, não podemos ignorar as barreiras que ainda nos separam e que silenciam o nosso imenso potencial comercial. A integração plena exige que suprimamos não apenas os entraves alfandegários, mas também as barreiras linguísticas que limitam o diálogo, a confiança e a negociação entre os nossos povos. Devemos promover com rigor a formação linguística, incentivando que os nossos jovens e as nossas empresárias possam comunicar, negociar e celebrar contratos em qualquer geografia do continente, sem barreiras, e sem que o idioma seja um fator de exclusão ou isolamento. A nossa vasta diversidade linguística é uma riqueza. O capital humano é e continuará a ser uma prioridade estratégica do Estado angolano. Este compromisso assume uma relevância especial no contexto atual de transformação econômica. À medida que Angola abre o investimento regional e global, torna-se imperativo assegurar que o crescimento seja abrangente, socialmente equilibrado e territorialmente justo. Mantemos em Angola um enfoque especial na educação de qualidade e na formação técnico-profissional de excelência, garantindo que os nossos cidadãos, e em particular os nossos jovens, estejam preparados para participar de forma ativa e competitiva numa economia que queremos cada vez mais diversificada e aberta. Estamos a formar não apenas mão de obra qualificada, mas pensadores e inovadores que mantenham raízes profundas da angolanidade. O eixo central de desenvolvimento de Angola está direcionado para apostas firmes na agricultura, na indústria, nas energias renováveis, na economia digital e na inovação tecnológica. Estes são os setores capazes de gerar emprego em massa e reduzir as nossas vulnerabilidades externas. É imperativo que a África se prepare de forma estratégica e coordenada para responder às ameaças globais, sobretudo as crises climáticas que constituem um dos maiores riscos do nosso tempo, que ameaçam o nosso futuro coletivo. Não haverá comércio livre sustentável sem uma agricultura adaptada às mudanças climáticas. Diante dos desafios que se impõem, das secas prolongadas aos deslocamentos forçados por conflitos, é vital que as nossas respostas sejam estruturais e centradas nas mulheres, nas meninas e nos jovens. É fundamental que a mulher camponesa africana tenha acesso a tecnologias verdes e a conhecimentos que a protejam da terra para garantir a segurança alimentar. Ainda com o mesmo grau de preocupação, realço que a presidência da Organização das Primeiras Damas Africanas para o Desenvolvimento, de que sou vice-presidente, elegeu para o seu mandato o tema de paz e segurança e das alterações climáticas. Por isso, reforçam a necessidade da mobilização de recursos e desenvolvimento de parcerias para se fazer face às ameaças globais, como aos conflitos e às alterações climáticas. Now I will proceed in English. Ladies and gentlemen, dear participants, allow me to share experience from my work as a First Lady and founder of the Ngananzenza Foundation for Community Development. In the area of women's empowerment, I launched in 2018 the platform Transform Lives, Be a Woman, aimed at encouraging young women to become active agents of change in their communities. We address mental health, personal finance, entrepreneurship, and leadership. The positive impact demonstrates that when women are given the right tools, they lead profound and lasting transformations. In parallel, in Kunene Youth Campus is being implemented and will offer leadership training vocational education, and civic engagement, preparing our youth to meet the challenge of the future. Let me explain that Cunene is a province in Angola near of Namibia. It's our border with Namibia. Despite progress, many women continue to operate in low-profit sectors and face deeply rooted cultural barriers. Nevertheless, the role and the voice of women have gained growing recognition across Africa. Mainstream agenda perspective from policy design through implementation is essential to ensure equal benefits and opportunities for women and men alike. From our perspective, this approach is decisive for unlocking Africa's demographic dividend. Without equal opportunities, Angola and indeed Africa risks wasting more than half of its social and economic potential, which resides in women. A exclusão econômica do nosso ponto de vista, a exclusão econômica de mulheres e jovens constitui um risco estrutural grave para a estabilidade e competitividade do nosso continente. A inclusão de mulheres e jovens é uma estratégia inteligente. Uma juventude produtiva é o mais eficaz antídoto contra o radicalismo e a instabilidade. Neste percurso, importa reconhecer o papel das mulheres que ocupam posições de influência, incluindo o papel das primeiras damas de África. Embora sem autoridade executiva formal, a nossa influência constrói-se através da advocacia, servindo de voz ativa para aquelas que são silenciadas pela falta de instrução ou de acesso e oportunidades. Temos perante nós a oportunidade soberana de reescrever a narrativa de África como uma história de sucesso. Construamos juntos a Africa Trade Investments, que não deixe ninguém para trás, que não ignore nenhuma aldeia e que não se esqueça de nenhum talento. Investir nas mulheres e nos jovens não é um gesto simbólico, é uma decisão estratégica para garantir economias mais fortes, sociedades mais justas e um futuro africano de prosperidade verdadeiramente partilhada. Muito obrigada pela vossa atenção. Thank you very much for your attention. Merci beaucoup pour votre attention. God bless Africa. God bless us. Thank you very much.
Fellow Africans, please rise in celebration of our special guest, the First Lady of the Republic of Angola, Her Excellency Ana Diaz Lorenzo. Please, a round of applause. And that certainly was a masterclass in building an inclusive Africa. Please appreciate her once more with a round of applause. Your Excellency, we thank you ever so much for that thought-provoking address. Please be seated. For those of you who do not understand Portuguese, well, your salvation is not complete. Allow me to just pick on something she said, very, very important. Madam, we want to salute you for the active role you're playing as the Vice President of the Organization of African First Ladies for Development. Through your initiative, you have adopted a mandate of building the resilience of women and girls, climate, conflict, and a sustainable future. And this platform reinforces the need to mobilize resources and develop partnerships to confront global threats such as conflict and climate change. Please, one more time, let's salute her together with all First Ladies of the continent for this bold initiative. Now let's come down to Accra, Ghana, at the center of the world. It's a good time to be in Ghana for the first time in many years. Ladies and gentlemen, everything is in our favor to accelerate growth and empower women, youth, and SMEs. Today, we're joined by a woman whose actionable advocacy, but much more than that, a strategic facilitation of all that is necessary to make businesses thrive, ladies and gentlemen, joins us to augment our efforts. Would you please, with warmth in your heart, receive our guest of honor, the Vice President of our Republic, Her Excellency Professor Nana Jane Opoku Ajiman.
Thank you very much. Please take your seats. Your Excellencies, Heads of States and Governments, distinguished ministers and other members of government, captains of industry, finance and enterprise, the Council and leaders of the APN, Nime, Name, Nananum, friends of the media, ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you very much. I bring you all greetings from His Excellency, President John Dramani Mahama, who was meant to be here, but was called away for other international duties. It is a pleasure to represent His Excellency. It is important to engage with the avenues that conceptualize, change, and implement it. It is in this context that such advocacy platforms have emerged to complement the work of the African Continental Free Trade Area, which is headquartered here in Accra, to champion inter-African trade and deepen intra-African economic cooperation, investment, and mobility. Distinguished ladies and gentlemen, this commitment is not new. Recently, at the United Nations, President Mahama stated that Africa would shape the future. He is just as convinced of that today. And central to that conviction is a simple truth. A future that excludes young people, women, and small enterprises is not one we can afford to sleepwalk into. It is a belief that lies at our reset agenda. The idea of a reset is to move us from dependency to self-reliance, from fragmentation to integration, from exporting potential to building prosperity at home. The vision of Africa as a single integrated economic space remains unfinished. Whether this reflects the constraints of imagination or the execution, we must remember what is at stake, and that is prosperity for Africa's people. Our borders should connect us. From Pan-African Festival of Arts and Culture, through the Year of Return initiative, to the Diaspora Summit, successive governments in Ghana have worked deliberately to bridge our historical and economic divides with the understanding that progress is strongest when it is collective. This spirit of partnership was reaffirmed just last year
at the second AU CARICOM Summit in Addis Ababa, where African countries recommitted themselves to cooperation rooted in dignity, equity, and mutual benefit. Against this backdrop, the African Continental Free Trade Area stands out as a historic opportunity. It is the world's largest free trade area by number of participating countries, representing a market of 1.3 billion people. Within this market, SMEs are central. Africa's SMEs are often cited as generating over 80% of employment and a significant share of GDP. In Ghana, our SMEs continue to demonstrate resilience, competitiveness, even under challenging conditions. Equally notable is the role of people. Women make up nearly half of Africa's workforce and are a major force in enterprise, especially in micro and small businesses. Our youth account for more than 60% of our population. Across the continent, our youth are driving technology and innovation from fintech to creative industries. However, ladies and gentlemen, this potential is not yet fully reflected in cross-border participation. Fewer than 20% of SMEs engage in export trade. Women continue to face unequal barriers to finance, mobility, and market access. Many young people still lack the capital, skills, pathways, and institutional support needed to scale their ideas across borders. Many of our economies risk remaining trapped in low productivity models, exporting raw materials, importing finished goods, and watching talented young Africans seek opportunity elsewhere. This trajectory is neither inevitable nor acceptable, and that is why the theme for this dialogue is very relevant. Across the continent today, we are seeing sustained efforts, deeper coordination, and increasingly confident leadership. The task now is to convert this momentum into a durable economic transformation. That requires clarity of focus, expanding trade within Africa, and implementing the industrial strategies that strengthen priority sectors, build skills, support sustainable production. We must continue to invest in infrastructure and connectivity while establishing the conditions for innovation and technology. Behind all this, strong institutions and effective governance are essential to sustain progress. Ghana is actively contributing to this shared agenda. Our 24-hour economy initiative is designed to unlock productivity by better coordinating infrastructure, finance, and institutions, ensuring that businesses and workers are no longer constrained by avoidable bottlenecks or lost time. Along this, the government's Big Push Infrastructure Development Program is laying the foundation for trade and industrial growth while aligning Ghana's national priorities with those of ECOWAS and the African Union. Governments must generate long-term and medium-term policies and grow strong development finance institutions and regional projects that reflect the scale of our collective ambition. And we must continue to integrate our borders. We must continue to interrogate the borders. Africa must unite. This is not about erasing sovereignty. It is about organizing our sovereignty in service of shared prosperity and our markets. It is about enabling an entrepreneur or manufacturer, whether in Accra, Kigali, Luanda, or elsewhere, to see Africa not as a fragmented abstraction, but as one connected market with vast opportunities. Ladies and gentlemen, our greatest asset remains our people. For that reason, this conference should be remembered for what was discussed, what was launched, what was committed to, and ultimately, what was delivered. I thank you for your kind attention.
The President of our Republic, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, speaking so eloquently to us through the Vice President, ladies and gentlemen, Her Excellency Professor Nana Jane Opoku-Agyeman. A round of applause is in order. Wow. Please be seated. A true champion of African sovereignty.